So today we're going to look at the Arizona audit and do a brief lesson in confirmation bias with the way CNN is covering this story. So this is the most recent of the articles we're going to look at, where they describe it in the first words of the article as Arizona's problem-plagued audit. And then blah, 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 go on to talk about whatever they're going to talk about. So they're treating that as an established fact, that this audit is, quote, problem plagued. They're thinking past the sale. They're just treating that as a fact and moving beyond that, expecting the reader to accept that this audit is problem plagued without questioning it. But they do have a link here for us to follow, which presumably will provide some evidence to the fact that that audit is problem-plagued. So when we click on it, it takes us to this article, where the headline says, Republicans draw inspiration from problem-plagued Arizona audit. And then if you go down the top here, Arizona's problem-ridden audit. And then it's mostly about how it's inspiring Republicans to do, and, how it's inspiring Republicans to do this or that. But this section down here, I think this whole thing is a joke. This is the section that actually talks about it being about the problems they're pointing out in the audit. And all of this comes from Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs. Some observers from her office, and then the office itself published a summary with some observations that they're claiming are, lapses in security. Like one of the doors wasn't watched at some point in time, so then that got corrected. There were some people with blue or black pens on the floor, which is a violation. There was someone with a cell phone on the floor, etc. So, this seems to be the factual pretense for the basis that it's a problem-plagued audit, or, problem-ridden audit, is the fact that this Arizona Secretary of State is alleging as much. Now, keep in mind, this, what is her name? Katie Hobbs. So this is the actual report here that she put out. Keep in mind, she is a conflicted party. The Arizona Secretary of State's office is the office that conducted the election. So if it's found that there was some impropriety or some incompetence in that election, then that would likely fall on her head. She is the one being investigated right now. So the fact that she's saying this election or this investigation is all for nothing, it's all a big joke. Oh, look, there's this whole list of problems with the investigation. We wouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised by that. The fact that anytime a defendant is accused of something, they say, I didn't do it. Look, there's a whole list of reasons why I'm innocent. That's par for the course. So, CNN's entire factual basis for stating as a fact that this audit is problem-ridden, problem-plagued, is copying down what the defendant of the investigations, just transcribing her claims without looking into them in any way, without even quoting someone on the other side who said, oh, well, she, right here, she has this claim about the Senate cage, but actually, that Senate liaison Ken Bennett guy is totally allowed to remove it from the Senate cage under XYZ circumstance. They don't have anyone arguing against her whole list of observations, right? They're only presenting the one side of the story, and that one side of the story they're presenting is from the person who is being investigated. And they're saying her defense, without any examination, is evidence that this whole thing is a sham. And then but they don't make that context particularly relevant. They just treat her like, oh, she's a GOP Secretary of State. Oh, God. If anything, that means her bias means she would want to prove this audit thing is real. She's a Republican. If you actually get down into where her personal biases would lie, it's exactly the opposite. But they don't paint that picture in this because this isn't news. They're trying to convince you of a certain point. So then once we realize that's their factual predicate, then you go up this whole big long article that's talking about a bunch of other stuff. They're just writing problem-ridden audit, problem-plagued audit. And then this whole article, which states at the very beginning that's a problem-plagued audit, and that colors the way the whole rest of this article is read. That's entirely based on the target of the audit claiming that you shouldn't be investigating me, I'm totally legitimate. That's why the CNN is stating as a matter of fact that it's a problem-plagued audit. Maybe there is other evidence. It's not the stuff they're citing here, though. It's not the news and information about current events that they're presenting to us as readers. So, this is just a little bit of information about how confirmation bias works. They have their story, they have their narrative about how errors, it's the big lie, everything regarding it is totally wrong. So, okay, how do we attack this Arizona audit thing? Well, let's just get something that we can point to as a factual pretext. Okay, we'll take the defendant, the person who's being investigated, and have her say that it's a bad investigation. Alright, fine, that's good enough. And then we'll bury that at the bottom of this long article that's mostly about other stuff. And then we'll cite to that article as conclusory proof that it's a problem-ridden audit. And most of their audience is going to go along with it. Build it up one step at a time. Most people are not going to go and check each little step of confirmation bias along the way. But you use a little bit of thinking for yourself, a little bit of rationality, it's not too hard. And it always helps to use the tools freely available at 5sheet.com. So pop on in there, get a little education, get a little ahead of all the propaganda these guys are throwing at you. Alright, I'll see you next time.